Hello, folks, and welcome back to Not Funny Guys Present Go Team Venture. Welcome to episode 7. And there will be no episode for Christmas this time, but I do want you to know that we will be covering the Christmas special, the short 11-minute Christmas special this day. No episode on Wednesday, it's being Christmas, but we'll be back with the beginning of season 2 on Friday. So let's jump into it. So we are looking at episode 13 of season 1, Return to Spider Skull Island, originally aired on October 30th, 2004, co-written by both Jackson Pollock and Doc Hammer, the co-creators of the series. So this is a culmination episode, a lot of foreshadowing that Rusty has been, shall we say, possibly eaten his twin in utero. We've seen little flashes and visions of this, and well, this episode, we get the culmination. Apparently, the Venture brothers have gone undercover to crash a supposed ghost haunting, which in itself is a very Scooby-Doo type storyline, dressed as characters from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. They return to base only to find out that Dr. Venture appears to look pregnant. He says it's a hernia. Brock rushes him to the hospital, but Hank and Dean, once again, not being real adults in any way, shape, or form, or even barely being real human characters, completely misinterpret that somehow their father really is pregnant. Well, they get there, they remove the tumor. It turns out the tumor then itself disappears because it's not a tumor. It's actually, he swallowed his twin, who we will meet in a little bit, and apparently he swallowed him in the room and all that fun stuff. Well, he goes by JJ, he calls himself Jonas Venture Jr. when he eventually builds parts that he disassembles from all over the base to attack Venture, to get back at him in an ill-fated, but necessarily justifiable sense of rage at his brother stealing his life. So in the meantime, the boys have gone off on an adventure deciding to, quote-unquote, run away and engage in a bit of Easy Rider situation because Dr. Orpheus was left in charge to watch them. They run away, they leave a note, and Dr. Orpheus then proceeds to follow them at a distance. And while doing this, there's all kinds of like fun Easter eggs for like Easy Rider, where particularly the fact that the Orpheus gets hassled by some rednecks in a diner for looking like a hippie. He turns them into little doll figurines you get out of a vending machine. Brock, of course, eventually saves the day, saves Rusty, and they come to terms with JJ, finding a way to find peace with each other, and Venture decides to like basically gift him the X2, the boat, and the family compound on said Spider Skull Island. The boys themselves get arrested at one point for speeding and end up in prison, where they run into the Monarch, who is doing a scared straight talk and then realizes he has the Venture brothers there, and he's trying to convince them that they need to leave. Get out of there, all that fun stuff. And so he eventually helps them get out of prison. Fun stuff. However, all this time, 21 and 24 have been carrying out his sort of like final demands that he laid out. And one of them actually is to kill the Venture brothers. And eventually they will encounter them in the Monarch Mobile, where they will accidentally shoot the boys and kill them and destroy their little hover bikes near the end of the episodes, after Rusty and Brock and Orpheus are slowly following them at a distance to let them feel a sense of independence. And so we end with this kind of tragic fate and a cutaway tragic song that somehow two angels have ascended to heaven thing. At the very end, Rusty's only words of response are to Brock, "Get the boys, get their clothes." Now this feels very like, oh no, what has happened? Is the show over? All fun kind of weird stuff ensues, but it is a strange episode. Like I said, if you're familiar with Easy Rider, this is all kind of pockmarked things. And it's funny because 21 and 24 definitely did not mean to kill them. It's literally they were asking them for directions, I think, when they accidentally killed them. And seeing the Monarch in prison, still fun bit. Of course, this will all carry over into season 2. So I feel this is a good time, not to everybody, just a reminder, like, subscribe, comment this, follow this either on the podcast, but I really would like to encourage everybody to come on over to the YouTube feed, where we will be continuing this after we start picking things up on the regular podcast. This will actually go over to an exclusively YouTube feed starting in the new year after we cover season 2. So you'll get this both podcast and YouTube form for season 2, but after that, it will then go over exclusively to the YouTube version after that point. And we'll probably continue to do more television shows at that point as well. We might sing, so that's something for you guys to comment on. All right, let's move on to our last episode of Very Venture Christmas. All right, so our Very Venture Christmas is a special, and it's worth noting right out the gate that this is very much not in the continuity of anything, as you will see in a minute, based on who is at this party and people and all kinds of things. It's very much like a kind of standalone episode, very much like the Venture Halloween. This, unlike some of the other episodes, I do not believe is available on Netflix. Like I said previously, Netflix has the first 3 seasons. I have the box set digitally, which is where I watch it. I'll have to look into and see if it is available in other streaming services going forward, particularly as we get into season 2. But I do know that this one is not available on Netflix at the time. But The Very Venture Christmas was premiered on December 19th, 2004, written by Jackson Pollock. And I did take some very specific notes on this one because I had to rewatch this one quite recently myself to refresh. But it opens with Dr. Venture playing Ebenezer Scrooge at the end of Christmas Carol. And for only an 11-minute episodes, they pack a lot into this. And this may even be longer than my discussion of Return to Spider Skull Island. Of course, the Christmas future turns out to be Brock Sampson. The Doctor then wakes up doing the whole Ebenezer Scrooge right after his redemption. Oh, they did it all in one night. A whole motif here. And they even throw in the little magnifier that they did in the Grinch cartoon, where we see his heart grow 3 times. They even and breaks the little magnifier. We even get to see that whole bit. Then all of a sudden he goes outside to ask Hank. It's like, oh, it's Christmas Day. He then all of a sudden is nearly naked with his nose glowing. He starts flying and spouting lines from Jimmy Stewart's It's a Wonderful Life. Oh, I love you, old savings and loan, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's very much filled with every Christmas cliche. This is fitting. As you'll see in a minute here, we do eventually get to see Helper dressed as Tiny Tim, and we get to see Dean dressed as like a broken Jack-in-the-Box, or as he called it, a Dean in a Box, who looks like he's one of those characters from that Island of Misfit Toys and that old, is it Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? One of those stop-motion animation things that always kind of creeps me out even to this day. Where he goes with the kid who wants to be a dentist and all that fun stuff. Of course, it turns out that Dr. Venture, Rusty, has basically fallen asleep on the TV remote and has been cycling through television shows, which then makes all of this weird dreaming stuff make a lot of sense. However, we're not done with the weird, okay? And maybe this explains the out-of-continuity thing. We find that Brock is now on the phone when Dr. Venture comes to the kitchen. He's trying to request things from a telephone line looking for a gift for Dean, who apparently has been leaving around a 1979 Sears catalog. So he's having trouble shopping for him. Dean, realizing off the phone, then basically calls a Santa hotline for stories, which is in of itself, I'm sure, racking up bills, as we will find out later he has maxed out his dad's Diners Club card. I don't even know if anybody still uses those things. So, yeah, let's not do that. Later, we find, apparently he's dialing his hotline trying to speak to Santa. We then find that Hank has found a bunch of Christmas movies in a closet. Actually, they're, shall we say, pornographic movies that happen to say have a Christmas theme for which Brock takes away. He then almost puts the baby Jesus into the manger. He has stopped saying, no, that's something your dad does at midnight on Christmas, blah, 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 blah. Then turns out Tiny Joseph is there working for the monarch, and that by placing the baby Jesus in the manger, detonates a whole bunch of C4. So there's a plot afoot from the monarch. And apparently throwing up Dr. Venture is his Christmas present to Dr. Girlfriend. She's not impressed, saying, really? That's your thing? You're basically being selfish. Let's see. Then we cut to the Venture having a party. And this is where it is very obvious that we're out of continuity based on the people who are here. Now, most of these people we've encountered throughout season 1, but it's very likely that most of these people would not be in the same room together. For example, as we pan across the room, we see Mandalay from The Incredible Mr. Bisbee, Colonel Gentleman, we met in past tense, Triana, Dr. Orpheus' daughter, who's very much there looking very embarrassed, the Action Man, who we saw in both the Sea of the Ghost of the Saragosso and in past tense, Billy Quizboy and Pete White are there. Ice Station Impossible, sorry. Of course, Kano, the Atlantean Prince guy. Mr. and Mrs. Impossible are there, which is even slightly funny because I don't think they would be involved. Steve Summers and the Sasquatch are there from Home Insecurity. And we also even have one of the luchadors. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's the luchador who asked Brock to take him with him all the way back in Deus Los Hatred, or whatever it is. The very first episode. I can't remember the title. Dr. Orpheus eventually shows up. And at one point, he even has to stop Pete White, who is sort of dared by Billy Quizboy to hit on Triana, which is really super awkward. Dr. Orpheus, of course, intervenes. And then Dr. Orpheus is basically being called out by Dr. Venture by like, you don't believe in Christmas, do you? He's like, no, I believe in it as much as Kwanzaa and Wookiee's Life Day, which is a dark, funny reference to, of course, the, what is it, Star Wars Christmas Holiday Special from like 1979? I don't remember. No one should ever watch it, though. It's pretty horrible. I think Donnie and Marie Osmond were in that, too. Comment below if I'm wrong. I'm literally just doing this off the head. I'm pretty sure we then find out that Dean has maxed out the stories through the Christmas hotline and is looking to sort of find out a way to, I guess, get in touch with Santa? I'm guessing. So he actually pulls up Dr. Orpheus's book, starts recounting a spell that then summons Krampus. Krampus in all his glory then arrives at the party and proceeds to start punishing people. Dr. Orpheus ends up explaining the whole lore behind him. And Dr. Venture says, really? Santa Claus is real? It's like, well, he was until apparently he was killed by a jet in 1963. Oh, jeez. The Beast immediately starts punishing Dr. Venture. This is, he then eventually, Brock jumps in there, a giant fight ensues, and then at the stroke of midnight, Krampus stops and leaves. His duty done, and then he proceeds to put the baby Jesus in the manger, setting off the bombs. Dr. Venture wakes up. This apparently has all been a dream. He's on the X1. They have crashed into Bethlehem, where the boys have gone to see the sights of the birthplace of Jesus. So this was all a dream. They really just crashed the X1. And apparently they've crashed into Bethlehem, and now they're discussing about who gets them first, the PLO or the Israeli forces. Brock is hoping for the Israeli Defense Forces, mainly because he knows some guys, and to show how out of date this is, the PLO really isn't a thing anymore, but that's who he is. If he does show up, he can offer them plutonium, because that's apparently what the X1 runs on. So, Merry Christmas to everybody. So, that brings us to a very Venture Christmas. Only 11 minutes, but I managed to talk about 7 minutes about it. So, there we go. So, please like, subscribe, comment, interact, both the podcast and the YouTube feed. If you go over to the YouTube feed, please subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Really trying to get that up and running. And to all of you out there, until next time, when I will see you on Friday, and we'll begin season 2, but on Wednesday, have a Merry Christmas. And we will see you after the holiday. Say not funny guys again.
Not funny guys again.
No, can you say not funny guys?